Hey you guys, so I'm not there and I'm a part of the podcast group for the house that will not stand play. So I'm mostly in charge of the characters, so I'll give you guys just a little rundown of the characters. So the play is basically based around a woman, black woman at that. There's a lady named Patrice. She's a free woman of color. She has 3 children. They're Agnes, Modway, and Odette. They're all older 18 or older, I'm sorry. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing the ladies' names. So there was also a lady named Makita, Lavaway, Marie, and I'm going to get in depth on all of the characters and how they connect. So they're the main characters that I just announced. So Patrice, she was a mistress. She was a mistress to a man named Lazare. For many years, she was a mistress for a man named Lazare for many years, and had her daughters with him. So he died, and when he died, she became the owner of his home, not his wife, but her. And so there's many speculations that she may lose the house, and that's where the maid Makita comes into play, because Makita was going to be free once if she kept the house, but she might not be able to keep the house. So she also has her 3 daughters. Nobody really cares for her, not even her 3 daughters, because she keeps them tight. She keeps them away from certain things because she don't want them to end up in slavery or and things of that nature. So she keeps them from going to ballroom dances that consist of white men that, you know, could take advantage of them and have them back doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So so they're not really really loving of her, and also they feel she doesn't have much security for them. Like they doesn't feel secure with her because of the circumstances. But their mother's just trying to help. She doesn't want them to end up in slavery. So the daughters want their own sense of security, but the mother refuses because she doesn't want them following her footsteps. She sees it as another form of slavery. So Agnes is the oldest of Patrice's 3 daughters. She is sensible and full of desire with a frank sense of humor. Modway is the middle of Bernice's 3 daughters and has the light skin. Modway is a strong moral compass and is devoted to her spiritually. And the 3rd and youngest is Odette, the youngest of Bernice's 3 daughters, and has the dark to go to ballroom dances and things like that because she knows there'll be white men there, and she doesn't want them to end up in their hands and back into slavery or anything of that nature. And they don't really get to understand that, but their mother knows what's best for them. The mother Patrice was a mistress for the man named Lazare for many years and had 3 daughters with him. Lazare had died, and the mother was accused of murder. No one really cares for Patrice, not her daughters, not the maid, not her sister. Nobody really cares for her because of that. Patrice is in danger of losing everything Lazare left from her will because at the time period, they do not recognize their relationship, meaning that he had a whole wife on the side. She was just a mistress, so she might lose everything. And if she loses the home, that means Makita wouldn't be set free. And that's where that draws another problem for everyone. Okay, and Patrice's daughter wants to find their own white men so they can be places like their mother in order to secure their future. They see that as their only option. Patrice refuses to let them attend to the ball to meet rich white men. Each woman in the play desired their own path of security. So basically, with that being said, is they want to follow after their mom's footstep and thinking they can find a rich white man that'll take care of them and not actually make them work for them. So they try to do that. They think that that's their only option. They think that they have to do that, but the mother isn't allowing that. She knows what comes with that, and she knows the background of it. So the mother keeps a tight grip on them and keeps them close so that doesn't happen. But you know, they're girls and they're older, so they don't like that decision. And Makita, she's been working hard since Lazare and Patrice been together, and she just thinks it isn't fair that she might not be able to get her freedom because of their relationship wasn't a real tight and genuine relationship, and because Lazare had a wife on the side. So that's just basically the background of the main characters. Mostly everybody, almost everybody is black woman, and it's just a different time frame that is set in, and is basically bringing out not really slavery, but a little portion of it, but what can happen if their mother didn't follow suit and try to step in front, but they're, even though they don't really care for her because of the way she takes care of them, and because of the murder that she's being accused of.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Martinez, and I will be talking about the playwright of the play, The House That Will Not Stand, which is Marcus Gartley. I couldn't really find that much information pertaining to him, so I'm just going to go ahead and say what I did find. Marcus Gartley is an American poet and playwright from West Oakland, California. He is currently an assembled member playwright at Victory Gardens Theater in Chicago. He's also an assistant professor of theater and performance studies at Brown University. He is a nationally renowned playwright whose works have been shown on stages across the country and internationally. Yet, despite his obvious talents, it comes as a surprise when he admits to having written his first play as a child before he'd even seen one. So, kudos to him. He credits his early awareness of theater to a childhood surrounded by books. In terms of his early life and education, Gartley at first wanted to become an anesthesiologist, which I thought was very interesting considering the completely different path he took in becoming a poet and a playwright. It's like, how do you go from wanting to do something in medicine to something like theater? I read somewhere that he just didn't love it as much as he loved theater. He originally studied and wrote poetry at San Francisco State University, though his poetry professors told him that his poems read like plays. Initially, he did not want to admit it, but eventually he came around to acknowledge that his poems often did incorporate elements of playwriting. He is among a new group of young African American playwrights who have come to prominence during the age of Obama. His play, The House That Will Not Stand, inspired by Federico Garcia Lorca's The House of Bernardo Alba, had its world premiere with the Berkeley Rep Theater in January 2014. The play centers around the black Creole woman who, recently widowed, must contend with the impending loss of her home and the privilege of being married to a rich white man in 1830s New Orleans. The work utilizes dark humor and stylized melodrama to tell the story of female sexuality and race relations. It was subsequently staged in London at the Tricycle Theatre with an off-Broadway premiere at New York Theatre Workshop in July 2018. Gartley mentioned that for him, the play is really a homage to his mother and his grandmothers. His mother's side of the family is from New Orleans, and he really wanted to talk about the strengths of these women and how that was passed down to him through his mother, grandmothers, and aunts. It stated that it was the notion of ancestry in his own family that really inspired him to continue with the project. In terms of awards, he had a few of them. He was the recipient of the Helen Morell Award in 2008 and the Kelson Ring Honor Award. His plays The World in a Woman's Hands from 2009 and Love is a Dream House in Marin in 2007 have been named as the best plays in Bay Area theater, with Love is a Dream House in Marin being nominated for the National Critics Steinberg New Play Award. He is the author of the box play about the prison industrial complex, which premiered in Brooklyn in 2014 by The Foundry. The Road Weeps, The Well Runs Dry, which had a national tour in 2013, and Dance of the Holy Ghost, which premiered at the Yale Rep Theater in 2004. He is the recent recipient of the 2004 Glickman Award for his play The House That Will Not Stand, which was commissioned and produced by Berkeley Rep, as I previously mentioned. Um, it had subsequent productions at Yale Rep and the Tricycle Theatre in London, and was a finalist for the 2015 Kennedy Prize. Garley was the 2013 USA James Baldwin Fellow and the 2011 Penn Laurel Pelz Award winner for Mid-Career Playwright. Garley has won the San Francisco Bay Area's Gerbold Emerging Playwright Award, the National Alliance for Musical Theater Award, the Eugene O'Neill Memorial Scholarship, and the ASCAP Cole Porter Prize. So he's won plenty of awards. He was selected as one of 50 talented playwrights for audiences to follow by the Dramatist magazine. So, yeah.
Hello, my name is Jess, and I will be discussing the history of The House That Will Not Stand. The playwright is Marcus Gardley, and the composer is Justin Ellington. The original presentation of this play was in 2012 at the New York Stage and Film Company. The world premiere of this play is considered to be February 5th, 2014, and this was commissioned by Berkeley Rep and developed in the ground floor. This is Berkeley Rep Center for the Creation and Development of New Work. This play has been performed all over the country and even all over the world. Some of the more well-known locations include the Tricycle Theatre in London. This was the UK premiere and was on October 9th, 2014. The Victory Gardens Theatre in Chicago. This was performed all throughout 2016. The New York Theatre Workshop also performed The House That Will Not Stand in 2018. This makes it an off-Broadway play. It opened at this location on July 30th, 2018. It was set to close on August 12th of the same year. It was actually extended by 1 week, making the closing date August 19th, 2018. The House That Will Not Stand earned Marcus Gardley the 2015 Glickman Award. This play was also a finalist for the Kennedy Prize in 2015. This play also earned 3 Drama League nominations, including a nomination for Outstanding Production of a Broadway or Off-Broadway Play, and 2 nominees for the Distinguished Performance Award. This included for Harriet D. Foy, who was Maquetta, the family's servant, and Linda Gravett, who played Beatrice. It also earned 2 Outer Critics Circle nominations for Best Play and Featured Actress. This was also for Harriet D. Foy. It had 3 Drama Desk nominations, which included Feature Actress, which yet again was for Harriet D. Foy, Music and Play, and Lighting and Design. And lastly, it won Best Costume Design at the Lucille Luttrell Awards, and this was for Levi Blanco, the costume designer. So The House That Will Not Stand was actually inspired by another play. This play was a Spanish drama, and it's The House of Bernarda Alba. The playwright for this play is Federico Garcia Lorca, and was first performed on March 8, 1945. The plays have a very similar plot. The House That Will Not Stand was inspired by and was made very similar to The House of Bernarda Alba with some adjustments. One place we see this is the names of the characters are very similar. So one example of the characters' names is in The House That Will Not Stand, Beatrice is the girl's mother, is based off of the character Bernarda in The House of Bernarda Alba. In both plays, they are both about a family who lost the father or husband figure, and the family is made up of all daughters and no sons. So in The House That Will Not Stand, there are 3 girls. In The House of Bernarda Alba, there are 5. In both plays, the eldest daughter plans to marry a rich man for the inheritance for her family, but the mother in both plays disagrees and says they should be mourning the loss of their father. So in The House of Bernarda Alba, Bernarda tells her daughters they will be staying in the house for 8 years to mourn their loss. In The House That Will Not Stand, Beatrice does the same things, except it's 7 months. Also, in The House That Will Not Stand, Beatrice makes her sister out to seem crazy, and in the house of Bernarda Alba, Bernarda does the same thing, except it is with her mother, not her sister. So as stated, there are many similarities between these two plays, however the endings are pretty different. I am not going to explain the differences in case anyone is interested in seeing or reading the play The House of Bernarda Alba. Next, I'm going to talk about how the time period that The House That Will Not Stand takes place in affects the play. So The House That Will Not Stand takes place in New Orleans in 1836. So this is a relatively short period of time after the Louisiana Purchase. So the Louisiana Purchase was the exchange of Louisiana from France to the United States for money. As we see in this play, this time period has a huge impact on the characters in the story. When Louisiana was part of France, there was relative racial acceptance. This means that there were still slaves, but there were also considered free people of color at this time. Even though they weren't seen as equals, they were considered free. This is like our main characters, the family. They are considered free at the time, even though many white people did not see them as equals. So we can see this at the time, what was the marriage system for people of color, especially females. So the female people of color at this time could not actually marry a white man. During this time period, it would be considered a man and woman entering a civil union. So we see this when the eldest daughter goes to get her paper signed when she sneaks out to go to the ball, as well as with Beatrice and Lazar. So in exchange for money to live off of, a colored woman would enter this contract with a white man. Throughout the play, Beatrice voices her opinion how this is still not being free and it's no life to live. Even though they were considered free people of color and not slaves or owned, Beatrice did not agree because they would sign away their future to a white man for money. She views it as being trapped and does not want her daughters to be signed into this civil union. So even though the rights for people of color at this time were not good when France has control over this territory, when the US bought this territory, the people of color would be even less accepted. So one example we see this is when Lazar Albans leaves Beatrice everything in his will, but because of the new laws in place for the United States rather than France, the will is not valid, and everything goes to his white wife instead. So even though Lazar Albans clearly stated that he wanted to give everything to Beatrice, the new laws in the US did not allow the woman of color to claim any of it, and instead it went to his wife who was white. So this is how the time period had a major effect on the play's plot and characters. Producers Gigi Pritzker and Rachel Shane and producer Diane Nabatoff from MWM Studios and the playwright are actually working on the film adaptation to this play. So Marcus Gardley noted that even when he conceived the play, he was always seeing the film version and imagining the film version of the play. So the first announcement of the adaptation to a film was announced in 2018, and then again there was an update in 2019 saying that the production was still in the works. I tried to find a more current update about where they're at with this process, but I could not find something more current than 2019, so I'm not sure how the pandemic has affected this production.
So in The House That Will Not Stand, there are a bunch of themes that I will be talking about, but I first wanted to go into what the placage system is in this play. So the placage system was a system in the 18th and 19th century where white men would take in free women of color to run the household or to be their wives. And those women were called placees, and our main character Beatrice was a placee. So yeah. The first theme I'm going to talk about is slavery. So we see slavery throughout the play. Makita, who is the slave in the household, was promised her freedom by Beatrice once Beatrice's
husband, Lazar Albans, passed away or died, because Beatrice would have sole right over the estate and anyone in it. So she was going to give Makita her freedom. Agnes, Maud, and Odette, who are Beatrice's daughters, wanted to become placees, which Beatrice was very against because she still felt that it was still slavery and she didn't want her daughters to be a part of it at all. Because of the Louisiana Purchase, it was challenging Beatrice's freedom and all the laws that she previously had when she was married. But because of that, all the laws are changing and they're not really recognizing her marriage to Lazar. There's another theme of parental restriction. So Beatrice's daughters really want to go and be placees and go to the ball where they find white men to take them in as placees. But she is completely against it, and she does not want her daughters to have to go through what she went through. Another theme that I would like to talk about is the oppression of women. So in this play, because of the Louisiana Purchase, it's challenging Beatrice's freedom. So it's going against the rights that she previously had. So she was allowed education and all of that when she was married and in the placage system with Lazar. But because he's now dead and the Louisiana Purchase, that law is not being recognized anymore. So all of the laws that she was previously endowed before are being oppressed. I think Beatrice is also going through a religious battle inside of her, or a religious war, because at the beginning of the play, she's a known Catholic and boasts about her Catholicism, but she eventually gets into voodoo. She performs voodoo with her sister, and voodoo goes against a lot of Catholic laws and everything. It's a very different type of religion versus Christianity or Catholicism. So I thought that was very odd that she went right from one religion to another. There's also a rivalry between Beatrice and another character called Lavouve. Lavouve accuses Beatrice of murdering her husband to get her estate and get her rights to be one of the richest Black women in Louisiana. But yeah, so a couple of things that I actually really liked about the play were the history of it, because I had never heard of the placage system or placees or anything like that. I didn't even know it existed. I'd never heard about it in history class. So I thought it was really cool to learn like a whole new side of history and kind of a different like aspect of it, I guess. I also really liked the overall plot. Like I said, I'd never heard of any of this before, so just the overall plot of the whole play made it for me. One of the things that I didn't really like about the play was the beginning, because I kind of wish we knew more about Lazar Albans and Beatrice's relationship to determine like if she should have taken over the estate versus his other wife that he had, his white wife that he never had children with or even lived with. I kind of wish that we got more of a background on that relationship, more than just, oh, he's dead and now Beatrice may or may not get his estate.
My name's Becca Harrison, and I'm just going to be talking about a few of the discussion questions after reading the play. I thought it was really interesting how the play developed and how it concluded, especially. That really interested me. But I'll just get right into it. One of the first things that I wanted to talk about was what Lazaire meant by the full weight of the house would be on Beatrice. When I was talking to people about this, there was two ways that we kind of looked at it. Either he meant it metaphorically or he meant it literally. So, meaning it literally, his spirit may have wanted to knock down the house and actually destroy the house on top of Beatrice, like the ways that it was described, the house shaking violently and just rattling. He may have wanted to kind of get revenge on her for what she had done to him. So that was one way that we kind of looked at it. The other way was much more metaphorically being the weight of the house, especially amongst her daughters and her legacy and everything like that, and all the rumors surrounding their family and how their family was viewed by other members of the community. So this kind of comes more along by how the daughters chose to act, but it may have been swayed by who their father was. So when Lazaire says the full weight of the house is going to be on her, it's because her daughters are going to do things that he would approve of that Beatrice would not approve of whatsoever. Like the daughters going out to the ball and trying to be courted by all these different men and trying to find the one with the most money. Beatrice really did not want her daughters to do this, while Lazaire promoted this and wanted his daughters to do this. So that was one way to look at that. Another question that I thought was really interesting that came up was who was more selfish, Agnes or Odette? So Agnes is viewed very selfishly because when her and Odette are planning to sneak out of the house, she sits there and keeps reminding Odette that this is my night and this is about me and your night will come, but this is my night. And she just keeps reinforcing that and reinforcing that and reinforcing that with Odette. But at the end of the play, Odette pretty much ends up stealing the man that Agnes was supposed to be with. When I was discussing this with some other people, someone mentioned to me that Odette wasn't being selfish. She was just showing her sister how it feels to be on the other side of things, which I thought was really interesting. But someone else also pointed out to me that Agnes wasn't being selfish. She was trying to be the leader, especially being the eldest sister, and show her younger sisters the way to do things and how to enter that part of society, especially being back in the early 1800s. The next thing I want to discuss is, do you think Marie Josephine was actually crazy? So in the play, Dr. Philip, although he's not a character that we ever meet, he gets mentioned multiple times, pretty much in the beginning, middle, and end of the play. And when we meet Marie, she kind of seems like this out there character. She's alone outside singing and dancing with herself. And then she starts talking to this dead man's body. And eventually you learn in the play that his spirit is still there and that he does talk back to the whole family, especially during the seance. But besides that, it's kind of this rattling realization that she may not be crazy, just extremely heartbroken from not being able to be with the man she loved, and him dying while she was locked up by her sister. So it's one of those things where, is she actually crazy, or is that just how she was portrayed? And she's heartbroken. Getting back a little bit to Beatrice's daughters, do you think Odette would have run away if Ramon had not been a part of her life? So going through the play and kind of analyzing how the family was, it's very difficult for Odette to be a member of the family, not as much as her youngest sister, but really Odette just gets shunned upon by her older sister, Agnes, and their mother is not a loving woman whatsoever, and their father is a drunk. So it's one of those things where would she have stayed in that situation had Ramon not come into the picture, or would she still have found another excuse to leave the family and kind of outcast herself for her own good, it seems. Also, do you picture Beatrice positively or negatively? When I was talking with someone about the play, she mentioned that Beatrice was just a victim of her circumstance. She was a free black woman in the early 1800s, and that really put her in a bad situation. And then she was hurt very badly by her ex-lover and her closest friend when they had developed an intimate relationship. And then after that, she ends up with an abusive man. So it's one of those things where, was she a victim of her circumstance and she tried to better her situation by killing him and trying to get the house that she lived in and everything? Or was she actually a terrible person who shouldn't have killed her husband and should have found ways to better her life through different means? And also how she treats her children. I know that in the play she mentions that she's just trying to turn them into respectable, hard young women, but there's ways that she could have done that without being so negative and cruel towards her family. So it's one of those things where, depending on how you look at the situation, she can be viewed as a victim or she can be viewed as the villain of the plotline and everything. And then lastly, was the use of the humor and puns throughout the play appropriate? Personally, I think it was 100%. It was great comic relief to kind of break up the tension and the suspense. That way you weren't always sitting on the edge of your seat, and it kind of gave you a moment to, like, obviously laugh things off and relax a little bit. But someone else mentioned that with the seriousness of the play, it maybe didn't need that. So I was just kind of wondering what other people thought too. That's about all I have to say for the questions. And like I said, overall, I thought it was a really good play, and the way it progressed was absolutely amazing. It was cool. I liked it a lot. But that's all I have to say, and thank you.